My side of what happened with room 325. It's hard to swallow. Believe me, all of us who responded still have trouble believing it. I was a firefighter in a southern town. There's nothing special about the place. Like many towns in the southeast, it's hot and humid. Spanish moss hangs from the oak trees. Every road is a corridor walled in by pine trees. I liked it here. The work wasn't hard, and being a member of the fire department brought a lot of respect. Being a paramedic in the service brought some stress, but I always told myself it was worth it. I was often assigned to the rescue unit. It was a multi-purpose truck designed to handle non-fire related incidents. We had cutters and spreaders for car accidents, and were fully equipped to provide advanced life support in support of the local EMS. I would ride with my sergeant on the rescue unit for 24 hours at a time. He's not the kind of guy who likes to be associated with this story, so I'll just stick to calling him Sarge. It was a slow day, but a Saturday shift on hot summer nights usually means we're going to be up all night. We responded to the usual: a few medical emergencies, a multi-car collision, a few drunk kids passed out at the local college dorms. Routine stuff. Around 1 a.m., we thought we might be able to catch a little sleep at the station. Just as our heads hit the pillow, we heard the tones go off. Dispatch rings loud over the speakers like a command from God. Rescue 1. Respond to an unknown female in distress at Holiday Inn room 325. Stage in lobby until police unit arrives on scene. We scrambled back down the stairs to the garage, jumped into our boots, and got ourselves en route. We beat everyone else to the lobby. It would be another minute before the police officer arrived. We grabbed our medical bag, cardiac monitor, and drug box. We had no idea at this point what we were being called for, so we just brought a little of everything inside. We entered the lobby and only saw one person. She was a young woman, and I noticed her badge said manager. I asked her if she knew what was going on in room 325. I could sense the confusion in her voice. I don't have any guests checked into the 3rd floor. A little odd, but at this point nothing seemed too weird. A cop walked in at that moment. Big Mike, we all call him. He's a good guy, and I always liked having him around on scene. Big Mike, crazy night so far, huh? Mike gave his typical grin and said, Yeah, and we're only halfway done. Let's head upstairs and see what we've got. I explained to him what the manager had told me. Mike turned to her and said, Will you mind having the rest of your staff come down to the lobby so we can make sure they are all accounted for? The manager obliged, still looking confused, and now concerned about what might be going on. She handed Mike the master key to the room. We stepped into the elevator with Mike. As the doors closed, I asked him what the call was about. He told me, Dispatch doesn't really know. They could hear a woman sobbing. She just kept repeating, I'm in room 325, please help, before the call dropped. The number came up on the board as one from this hotel, so they just dispatched everybody to save time. No one answered on callback, and I guess you two were already flirting with the manager downstairs when they tried to call the hotel. I didn't really know what to say at this point. We've responded to this kind of thing before. Sometimes it's a medical emergency, sometimes it's a psych issue, sometimes it's a prank. The doors opened and we stepped through, lumbering down the hall towards room 325 with all our equipment. Mike knocked on the door and identified himself. No answer. We could see the lights inside were on. Odd. Nobody should be registered to the room since the floor is clear. Mike put the key card in the slot and it made a little snapping sound. He slowly opened the door. Mike entered the room cautiously, clearing the bathroom first, and then the bedroom. He called us in. Nothing. Every light in the room was turned on, but nothing was out of place save for one thing. The telephone receiver was laying on the bed, beeping to let someone know it was off the hook. The bed was immaculate, nothing on the floors. The bathroom was squeaky clean. Mike checked the window. It wasn't designed to open. That's fucking weird, Sarge blurted. Maybe we should check a few of the other rooms, I suggested. By this point, a couple more cops arrived on the floor. Mike filled them in on what was going on. They started checking a few more rooms as we moved out into the hall. Every other room was dark inside, and nothing suggested anyone had been in them. The EMS crew arrived on the floor as well. I filled them in on what we had found, which was nothing at this point. I didn't recognize the crew. They must have been filling in from another town. They said that they were going to wait in the lobby until we found something out. "Well, there's nothing up here for us to do. Let's head downstairs," Mike told us as he and the other officers started towards the elevator. We followed him down. The manager met us near the desk along with 2 other employees. "This is everyone I have working tonight," she said. "Have any of you seen anything out of place tonight? Anyone on the 3rd floor?" Mike asked. They both shook their heads no. "I need to review the footage from the 3rd floor hall camera, please," Mike asked. The manager motioned for him to follow, leading him to a small room behind the counter. About 10 minutes later, Mike came out. "Nothing. No one's seen going in or out of the elevator or stairwells on the 3rd floor camera," he said. "Then how did the calls get made? The phone was off the hook," Sarge asked. Mike didn't have an answer. "Maybe it was left off after housekeeping cleaned the room. Probably just a coincidence. Maybe the call came from a different place," I responded. "I really don't see how that's possible, man." Mike put his hands up in the air and said, "Look, brother, you saw the same shit I did. There's nothing for us to do, so let's get back in service." I couldn't argue with that. I was ready to get some sleep anyways. Everyone cleared the scene and called dispatch to let them know what we found. Sarge and I talked for a few minutes about how strange the whole thing seemed. Neither of us could come up with an explanation for it. I fell asleep pretty easy, though. The night was long enough, and I was ready to get the shift over with. At 5:40 a.m., we get paged out again. Dispatch informs us to proceed to Holiday Inn, room 325, for an unresponsive woman, apparent trauma, stage on scene until police arrive. Sarge and I are sitting up in our bunks looking at each other. I can see the perplexed look on his face. Had we missed something? Now we have a confirmed patient on scene, and it's in the same room we had just confirmed was empty a few hours ago? We put on our turnout trousers and rolled out of the station. Police department was already on scene when we arrived, so we grabbed our gear and headed straight upstairs. We met the officers on the 3rd floor and headed to room 325. I was not ready for what I saw. I was somehow expecting the same clean room we saw a few hours earlier. What I met was a crime scene. Inside the room, blood streaks were scattered down the hallway walls adjacent to the bathroom. The carpet was wet with blood. I could see the edge of the bed from the doorway, where 2 feet could be seen hanging just off the edge, toes pointed down. "We have an unknown subject, dead on arrival," Mike said. In these situations, a paramedic confirms death and calls it in to med control. Then everyone clears the scene and waits for the investigators to take over. I went in alone with the cardiac monitor. The woman was young, college-aged, and absolutely beaten to hell and back. Contusions on her arms, cuts to her hands, and more blood had come from areas of the abdomen that I couldn't see. I carefully examined the body to confirm lividity and rigor mortis. The body was cold as ice and unnaturally stiff. I looked at the phone. It was still off the hook, bloody fingerprints staining the number pad and the receiver. I carefully walked back out to the hall to call med control and get a confirmation of death. After I got off the phone, I walked to Big Mike and asked, "What the fuck happened?" Mike looked at me, visibly shaken. "We got a call to the same room again. Apparently the manager sent someone up to the room to check on it since we had told them the phone had been off the hook. They wanted to make sure it was in good shape for the next guest. They found the door cracked open, lights on, and you can guess the rest." I must be going crazy, I thought. I know damn well we cleared that room of any people. Had someone taken her there afterward? The 2 investigators for the department had arrived on scene. One of them went upstairs while the other was in the security room reviewing all footage. "Mike, please let me know what they found out. I can't help but feel like we fucked up and missed something," I said. "Yeah, we'll be on scene for a while, but you guys can clear out. I'll call you in a bit." Sarge is the superstitious type. It's a southern thing. All kinds of spooks and haints and demons are out there. Guys like Sarge know better than to talk about them, because talking about them invites evil into your life, and his lips are sealed. Our shift is over by the time we're back at the station. and Sarge just gets in his truck and heads home, not saying a word to anyone. "What was all that about?" one of the incoming firefighters asked. I tried to explain, but everyone is just looking at me like I'm a maniac. After filing the paperwork, I went home too. Normally I try to grab a couple more hours of sleep, but that ain't happening today. I make myself some breakfast and coffee. I tried to pretend like I'm not shook up. Normally this kind of stuff doesn't bother me at all. You learn to have a certain degree of detachment. But one thing that will eat you alive is wondering if you fucked up and cost someone the chance of being helped or saved. And if I didn't fuck up, what does that mean? How did we get called to a crime scene before a crime ever happened? My phone rang. Immediately, I felt my anxiety race like a champion horse in the Kentucky Derby. I answered. "Hey man, you really ain't gonna believe this shit." It was Mike, and he was talking a mile a minute. He continued, "Well, the good news is we're all cleared of any slip-up. They saw us on camera checking the room and the floor earlier in the night. Heard from my supervisor himself that no one is looking to point fingers at us for this." I could sense his relief. "All right, so what happened exactly?" I asked. Mike responded, "Detectives don't know yet. See, the footage still doesn't show anyone going in the room or out. You know, except for us. The body has not been ID'd yet. No reports of anyone missing. Not a stitch of identifying information for this woman. What's more, she was stabbed, beaten, and choked. You saw the blood. It's everywhere." "Yeah, it's one of the nastiest scenes I've had to be on," I responded. "Yep, so why isn't there any blood anywhere outside the room? It's a bloodbath inside the room, but clean as a preacher's sheets outside of it. They haven't found anything. Nothing on the outside of the door, nothing on the corridor, nothing on the stairwell or elevator. They can't find anything. There's no trace of evidence of the attacker anywhere." I wasn't much for conversation. I thanked Mike for the update and let him go. I kept racking my brain trying to come up with a scenario that explains what happened, that doesn't involve a time-shifting portal to hell, or just all of us sharing the same crazy hallucination. Nothing seems to satisfy me. I didn't get much sleep for a few nights after that. I called in my next shift, just wasn't ready to deal with it yet. Sarge never did speak about the incident to me or anyone else. I guess that's his way of coping. I tried talking to a few people, even spoke to a pastor about it. Everyone tells me there has to be an explanation. No one can seem to offer a plausible one, though. As for the investigation, it's been years now. Nothing ever came up. The body was never identified. No one in the region was reported missing that was a match for the description. No trace of evidence ever turned up on who could have murdered this girl. Most everyone just thinks it was a prostitute or something. The community doesn't know the details, and the police department isn't exactly talking much about it. They don't want to be seen as incompetent. I'll never know the truth about what happened in room 325. In all likelihood, no one will ever know. One thing is for sure, though. You will never see me staying on the 3rd floor of a hotel, ever again.